This is Niden Division 187, or Niden Div 187. Niden was a Swedish black metal band that had a couple of recordings back in 1996 and 1997, then called it a day. It was basically just a side project of some of the guys from Dawn, Canorous, Quintet, and the Primordial. All pretty active Swedish black metal bands throughout the 90s, and I want to say all those bands kind of came to the conclusion well over 10, 15 years ago already. So it's been, this is an older project, and all their main bands have been said and done. And I think if any of those guys have been playing in bands any days, it's mostly just like kind of hobby bands nowadays, nothing too serious, as all those guys are now like in their mid-40s or even older. But what we have here is a re-release of Niden Division 187's two recordings. It's a Towards Judgement demo / EP, which was originally released in 1996, and the Impergium album, which was released in 1997, both by Necropolis Records. This limited edition deluxe version of the album was released last year by From Below Productions, a relatively new label. It's only been going since about 2019. I think they only have like 3 or 4 releases on their roster so far. Niden Division is, of course, a black metal band, but it's not really simple to describe them, as they don't have a very typical black metal sound. They were, for what it's worth saying, they were probably one of the most extreme and just cold, dark, and hateful sounding black metal bands of the 90s, and maybe, in the grand scheme of things. They only had the 2 recordings, and together probably released only about 45 minutes of music throughout their short career. This was cold, militaristic, industrial-style black metal, which, if I try to compare it to something, it doesn't, there's nothing that really immediately comes to mind other than the old Zyklon B EP, Blood Must Be Shed, which came out in 1995, which was a Norwegian short-lived project from Samoth, and Ishan from Emperor, and Frost from Satyricon, and Alderon from Dathomsgard. That EP had a very similar, just really cold, industrialized, just very brutal, war-themed black metal sound to it. And as far as comparisons, that's really the only thing I can compare it to, because there's nothing really else in the 90s that sounds like Niden Division 187, and there's really nothing that came after it either. So black metal, even in its most brutal forms, will oftentimes, have some sort of melodic characteristics, or an interesting synth passage, or something like that. But what makes Niden Division just such a cold, hate-filled band is that their music kind of lacks all that. It is just brutal for like the sake of being brutal, really. I mean, it is extremely cold and dark and just hate-filled black metal with no love at all. This is just a total chaos and anarchy and just apocalyptic black metal, I guess, if you will. As far as the Impergium album is concerned, other than a short industrial ambient kind of intro and a slightly slower moment at the end of the recording, this sucker it's on hellfire from the get-go, and it's just an intense recording that just doesn't let up for its 30 minutes. But it's interesting because, again, I can't compare this to something like Marduk or Dark Funeral, or any of those more typical high-speed or Norsecore black metal bands that were so popular throughout the 90s, and it became just a big trend by like the early 2000s, all that kind of stuff. No, this sounds totally different, and again, the only thing I can really compare it to is the Zyklon B EP from 1995. The set contains 2 CDs, the first CD being the Impergium album, and the second one being the Towards Judgement demo. And the demo was originally a self-release thing, and then it was, I believe in 1996, was re-released by Necropolis Records as a CD EP, rather than, just having it floating out there in cassette form. It was also, I believe, in 2004 re-released as a dual set, and but that's been out of print. The originals have been out of print for many years, so obviously From Below Productions thought it was time to re-release this stuff, and this is the result. The Towards Judgement EP, demo, whatever you want to call it, is slightly different than the full-length album. I would say there's just a slight case of more melodicism and just more catchy riffs and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a little more accessible than, the Impergium album. And that's not to say the Impergium album is bad, but the Impergium album is something that I guess it's not casual black metal. It's not something you can put on when just, you want background music or whatever. It's the kind of album you're going to want to do when you're extremely pissed off or just, just raging kind of. It's one of those sorts of albums. So it's not an everyday album or whatever. It's not some casual, very, very cold, grim, and just militaristic, industrial, war-themed black metal with a lot of samples. The drums are so fast. They sound like it's a programmed drums, but it is in fact a human drummer, and the guitars are just super fast, vocals are just high, screechy, raspy, hellish shrieks of terror. Just really, really crazy stuff. And for me personally, I had first heard about this band probably back about 17, 18 years ago, and I had wanted to get the albums back then just out of curiosity, but I had trouble tracking them down way back then. I remember the last time I saw them was 10, 11 years ago. I saw that the re-release of the two recordings, the 2004 re-recordings. I saw those at a secondhand store, and I had it in my hand. I was thinking, man, I should buy this. I know I'm going to like it, but I didn't buy it, and I regret it. And then I realized it was, really hard to find. So I'm glad this set came out, because now I can finally have these recordings. So it comes in this, what I guess they would call a clamshell box, which is really cool, and I personally haven't seen one of these in a really long time. Off the top of my head, I think the last time I had a clamshell box was when Satyricon had like a best of album like 15 some years ago or something like that. I had it, but I don't know that anymore. But this one's limited to 500 copies. My copy is number 322. So obviously very limited, and I got this from the Ajna Offensive, which is a U.S. black metal distro. Also, they sell a lot of like literature, occult stuff, that kind of, a lot of books kind of stuff. A very cool label if you've never heard of it though. So inside the clamshell box, we then have the CDs, which it comes in this dual cassette, or not dual cassette, dual CD thing, and I haven't seen one of these in a really long time either. Man, really crazy. Long time since I've seen anything like that. I remember like a lot of like my old like Japanese soundtracks have stuff like that, so it's kind of cool to see this. So the box comes with a poster before I show you the actual album content. The poster, tear it upside down. There's the poster. Obviously, as I said, this is a very war-themed black metal. Have cadavers, which are, I don't know if these are, from war, pictures or whatever, but probably a good shot. Pretty grim stuff. Not really something I'm going to display on my wall, I suppose, though, so I'll keep it in the box since it's pretty limited and, undoubtedly will be rare. As older recordings now are, because they're all out of print, and even this thing is pretty limited. Alright, so then the CD itself. So there's the front cover of Impergium, and Towards Judgement, which you already kind of saw. There's the Towards Judgement. Here's the Towards Judgement CD. And the Impergium CD. Probably should look up what that word means. Sounds Latin. And then we have a booklet, and this is, obviously, a very expanded booklet from the originals too, so you get some pretty cool stuff here. There's the front cover, lots of old band photos during the short period of time they were active, that is to say. Some little writings from the back there. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. Again, cold, harsh, war-themed black metal is what we're dealing with here. This is not for the faint of heart, and it's not the most accessible stuff. Definitely something you're only going to listen to when you're really pissed off or just, I don't know, need an energy boost. Maybe it'll help. I don't know, hard to say. But, really crazy, dark stuff, and I'm really happy to finally own this. I bought this probably about 8 months ago already. Been played it quite a few times and enjoy it for what it is, and definitely if you're into like just the coldest, bleakest, insanely fast black metal, this is worth checking out. That's Niden Division.